You ever get that feeling that the official story on the US housing market just doesn't quite add up? Well, there's a pretty controversial theory out there that says there's a massive crisis being intentionally hidden from all of us. So today, we're going to break down exactly how this alleged cover up is supposed to work and what it could mean for you. Let's get into it. That's the core warning from the real estate insiders behind this whole theory. They're basically saying that the system is way more fragile than anyone is letting on. That beneath this seemingly calm surface, the very foundation of the market is starting to crumble.
Okay, so what are these cracks they're talking about? Well, the evidence doesn't start with some complex economic model. Nope. It starts with what people are seeing and hearing on the front lines of the market every single day.
So, for example, a broker out in the Midwest is reporting this dramatic shift. Just a few months ago, he said his market was firecracker hot. But now, it's a totally different world. He's seeing deals just collapse, homes sitting on the market for weeks, and a huge spike in canceled contracts. It's not just that buyers are getting smarter, it's that they're getting priced out.
Now, whenever the market starts to slow down, you usually hear one common explanation for why. But this theory argues that the popular solution completely misses the real problem.
Right. The conventional wisdom is that high interest rates are the big bad wolf choking the market. The thinking goes, hey, if the Fed just cuts rates, borrowing gets cheaper, buyers will flood back in, and the market will take off again. Simple, right? Well, this is where you see the huge disagreement. This theory says that focusing on interest rates is just a distraction. The real issue is an absolute affordability crisis. I mean, think about it. Even if rates magically dropped to 4%, the prices of homes are so sky high that millions of people still couldn't afford the monthly payment. You can't fix a price problem with a rate cut. And this is where it gets really explosive. The theory claims that this affordability crisis is already causing widespread defaults, but that there's a massive effort going on to keep it all out of the headlines. And there it is, the core of the whole thing. The reason we aren't seeing a huge wave of foreclosures on the news isn't because they aren't happening. It's because, allegedly, they are being systematically hidden in what they call a masterful cover-up. So how in the world could something this big be hidden in plain sight? Well, the theory points to two specific financial mechanisms that are keeping all these defaulting loans off the official foreclosure statistics. The first tool is called the FHA loan workout. Basically, if you have a government-backed loan and you can't make your payments, those missed payments just get tacked on to the end of your loan. It's almost like the government is giving people an equity loan every year just to prevent a default from happening today, kicking the can down the road. So how big of a problem is this? Well, according to public records that one broker analyzed in his area, as many as 35%, that's more than 1 in every 3, recent FHA loans are technically delinquent and are just being propped up by these workout programs. That's a huge number. Okay, the second mechanism involves something called non-performing loans, or NPLs. And these are exactly what they sound like, mortgages where the borrower has already stopped paying. But instead of foreclosing, the government-backed agencies are supposedly packaging thousands and thousands of these bad loans together. And here's the crucial step. They sell these giant bundles of bad loans directly to private investors, hedge funds. The moment that sale happens, the loan is off the government's books. So when the hedge fund eventually does foreclose, it doesn't show up in the national statistics. The problem basically gets outsourced, keeping the official foreclosure rate looking artificially low. Okay, so if this whole system is in place, why would it implode now? Well, the theory is that this entire shell game depends on one single factor, and that factor is about to change. The whole thing works only as long as home values are high or, even better, rising. That equity is what backs those workout loans we talked about, and it's what makes those bundles of bad mortgages look attractive to investors. But what happens when home prices start to fall? Well, that equity just vanishes, and the entire system breaks down. And this theory actually comes with a very specific timeline. Right now, they say we're in the cracks are showing phase. A key date to watch is October 1st, when the FHA plans to add new guardrails that'll make these loan workouts much harder to get. The prediction is that by mid-2026, the problem will just be too big to hide, and that's when the real pain will start hitting the headlines. So with that pretty grim forecast, what's the takeaway? The analysis finishes up with some really direct, actionable advice for anyone who's trying to navigate this crazy market. And the advice is pretty clear. For sellers, the message is to sell now and price it realistically.
The market is changing quarterly, they say, and waiting for lower rates could mean you end up with a much lower price later on. Now, for buyers, this is actually your opportunity. A softening market means you can negotiate, you can demand inspections, you can get repairs done. They say to look for sellers who have been in their homes for a long time. They've got tons of equities, so they can afford to cut you a deal. Ultimately, this presents a starkly different picture of the housing market, doesn't it? It's a theory that says a deep-seated affordability crisis has been papered over for years, and that the measures used to hide it are now starting to fail. And all of that leaves us with one final and pretty unsettling question.